Hello guys, TKG is here for your comfortable LostArk life. Today, I'd like to cover the recent changes in the KL region. Actually, many of you have been curious about the recently added trust system, and I received a lot of questions about it. So I decided to make this video. Honestly, since the trust system is the first of its kind among online games, it's natural that there are many questions. So in this video, I'd like to introduce the recent changes in more details and help clarify how things works. First, why the trust system introduced? In fact, LostArk had a chronic issue for quite some time. Its in-game economy was severely unbalanced and unsatisfactory. At the explosive start of Season 3, the sudden surge in demand could not be matched by the supply of in-game currency, which resulted in unreasonable price spikes and increased the financial burdens on players. Of course, to meet this huge demand, undesirable forms of supply also emerged, namely a large influx of bot accounts. Honestly, if LostArk had launched Season 3 as a completely new beginning, severing ties with Season 2, this problem might have been easier to solve. Not just in the sense of a hard reset, but by making Season 2 content essentially obsolete and marking Season 3 as a true, fresh start. Things could have been much better. But this wasn't the case. Season 3 began with the mix of content from both seasons. The supply of gold and resources from the Season 2 continued unchanged, and characters at level 1640, considered lower tier in Season 3, could still enjoy high-value content from Season 2 with ease. As a result, players in these brackets could efficiently farm game currency that nearly rivaled the rewards of top-tier content, but with much less effort and cost. These statistics were immediately evident in the introduction of the recent law on summer. Before the introduction of the trust system, LostArk's in-game economy looked like this. As many as 13.64% of all users produced gold without spending it. And this group was responsible for making and circulating 58.67% of all gold in the game. To address this irrational economic structure, the trust system was introduced. In essence, it's a system that imposes a sort of penalty on gold transaction between users. As mentioned earlier, the newly updated trust system is essentially a solution to prevent excessive gold circulation between players. The trust system can be easily understood as a token-like feature that increases when you spend gold on in-game content, such as with NPCs. For example, if you use 1 gold in the game's economy, you earn 1 trust point. Even when using bound gold, you gain 0.1 trust point per gold spent. In short, spending gold means increased trust points. Trust points are connected to every aspect of LostArk's economic system. This means that almost every action you take in the game that involves spending gold will help you accumulate trust points. On the other hand, gold transactions between players, such as through the auction house or direct trades, do not grant any trust points. So, in a way, the boundaries of this system are quite clear. So, how exactly is this works? Here's the answers. As shown in earlier example, if you lack sufficient trust point, an extra fee of 25% of your lacked trust point will be charged on player-to-player transactions. For instance, if you have 1,000 trust points and want to transfer 5,000 gold, missing amount is 4,000 trust points, right? Therefore, 25% of 4,000, that is 1,000 gold, will be taken as a transaction fee. In short, if you've been regularly spending your gold on contents like holding or other in-game activities, you likely won't need to worry about this system at all. If you are thinking of bypassing the trust system, that's likely to be quite difficult as well. Currently, transactions through the auction house neither generate nor consume trust, and only the regular gold transaction fee applies. However, since the system can be abused, an upper price cap has been implemented in the general market and auction. This cap was introduced alongside trust as a kind of economic break. For instance, if someone tries to abuse the system by trading a useless item for, say, 1 million gold just to pay for the gold as a fee, it'll still pose problems for gold supply and circulation. That's why this price cap system is now part of the LostArk KR market. Of course, there may be times when you want to sell an item for a higher price, but you probably don't need to worry too much. In my own experience, I've seen that if an item had a price cap of 200,000 gold one day, it could rise to 300,000 gold the next. So the design allows prices to increase naturally over time. Despite these measures, as the developers have acknowledged, there still remains the possibility of attempts to circumvent the system. So economic restrictions like these may continue to evolve. For example, while there is currently only an upper price cap, additional measures such as lower price cap or stricter limits on player-to-player trades could be introduced depending on how the situation develops. As for whether this aspect will also be implemented globally, it remains uncertain for now, but currently, LostArk KL has updated its user and management policies. In other words, while the game system technically allows certain gold transactions, in terms of policy, any intentional actions purely for gold distribution and supply will directly result in account restrictions. This policy has been in effect since July 30th. Of course, precise standards and clear-cut measurements have not yet been established. So except for excessive abusing behavior such as operating a large number of bot accounts for massive gold farming, it seems these new terms will likely not affect regular users who play normally. In fact, recently, LostArk KL has been striving in various ways to stabilize its in-game economy, from introducing bound gold and adjusting the amount of currency supplied by low-tier contents to the current trust system. A considerable amount of efforts has gone into these measures. Of course, we'll have to keep observing to see how things develops. Still, one thing seems clear: if you are regular players who plays the game normally, there's really nothing to worry about. A new trust system too shouldn't be a major concern for most. However, there are some situations that could be risky. For example, operating an account that produce and farming large amount of gold, or suddenly disposing of unusually high volume of in-game currency or assets. This would be considered highly suspicious behavior. Personally, I believe that simple transactions between individual users, like lending or selling a gem or two to a friend, shouldn't cause any issues at all. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how the system and policy direction evolve, depending on how well the trust system settles into the game. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. And always, thanks for your big support. Hope this video was a little help for your LostArk journey. And of course, if you like my videos, hit the sub for more upcoming infos. I'll come back with more useful infos in the next video.